Hey guys, I'm your host, Tara A. Devlin, and welcome to this week's episode of Kowabana, true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. The latest book in the Deikan series, Volume 3, is now out. If you'd like to learn more about some of Japan's most haunted and dangerous spots, then this is the book for you. You can find all sorts of abandoned shrines, hospitals, parks, and even lesser-known places you wouldn't even think could be haunted. That's Deikan, the most haunted locations in Japan, Volume 3, out now. This week, we're taking a trip to another world. Or several other worlds. Will we be able to come back from them? Only one way to find out. First up, a group of university students take a mountain road on their way home from a training camp, but they soon find themselves unfortunately caught up in a local legend. A legend that seems to want to spirit them away. Find out why in Scary Story Drive. More than a decade ago, when I was a university student, I attended a summer training camp for my club, although it was honestly more of a trip. When it was time to go home, one of the senior club members invited some of us to visit the local fireworks festival with him, because his parents' house was nearby. After the festival, we enjoyed some more fireworks by ourselves on the nearby beach, and then we all got into the seniors' car and started our trip back to Tokyo. We had enjoyed the fireworks and chilled for a while after, so it was well after midnight, nearly 1 a.m. by the time we left. Looking back on it now, that was pretty dangerous, but we were all young, so I don't think anyone really cared. "Hey, if you get tired of driving, let me know. One of us will take over," we said. "Ah, thanks, but I'm the only one who knows the way back to the highway, so I'll drive until then. Should take us about 60 minutes at a nice pace to get there, and then we can change at the first service area after that. But don't you dare crash my beloved car," our senior said. "Don't worry about it, we won't." There were 4 of us in total, including the senior and myself, and then we all got in the car and took off. Our senior sat in the driver's seat, A in the passenger's seat, and B and I sat in the back. About 10 or 15 minutes later, we approached a mountain road. Apparently, once we passed over the mountain, we'd reach the interchange. "Hey, did you guys know that there's a legend about being spirited away around here?" Our senior started talking. "Ah, there's a mountain with stories like that where I'm from as well," B said. "But like, after the Meiji era. No, even after the war. There were apparently still people being spirited away here too." "Seriously?" "Yeah. During the Meiji era, a young Imperial University professor thought that Japanese people were influenced too much by superstitions, so he wanted to prove they were nothing more than that. He came here to prove his theory, and then, they say, he was spirited away." Huh. So, if he was spirited away, that means he disappeared without a trace, right? "Yeah. And after that, the locals started to fear this mountain and refused to come near it. But after the war, those memories faded. I guess you could call it the post-war atmosphere or something. But in the 50s, some Tokyo University students then came here to investigate the disappearance. And they went missing too. But if it was after the war, then the police would have investigated it, right?" "Nah, even during the Meiji era they would have done that," I said. "Yeah, the police, firefighters and others were mobilized and they searched the mountain, but in the end they couldn't find anything." "Well, even though it was after the war, this is still the countryside, so the elderly were still deeply superstitious, and at first they didn't want to go up the mountain." "Huh. So it was in the newspapers as well then?" "Apparently it was in the local paper." "Maybe something happened up here." "Probably. But the elderly believed that the people really were spirited away. They came here to mess around, and so they were spirited away. That was what people said at the time. Sounds like something from a Yoko Mizo Seishi novel, or like Asami Mitsuhiko. Like the legendary spirited away murder case. The four of us laughed. On that note, back where I'm from, B then continued and started telling us a scary story from his family home in the countryside. Once he was done, A then told us a scary story from his high school years. And so, naturally, I had to tell a scary story as well. I told one from my junior high years. Then, once I was done, B immediately continued with another scary story of his own again. Well, they do say that the best way to stay awake is to tell stories. So on a dangerous drive at a night like this, if we kept telling stories, and scary ones at that, perhaps that would help fight off drowsiness. I agreed with that thought, so once B and A were done, I started my own scary story. And so we continued. First B, then A, then me. As he was driving, our senior tried to join in as well, but we told him to concentrate on driving. Plus, if he was listening to scary stories, then he wouldn't get sleepy either. After that, the three of us continued telling stories. I don't remember how long this went on for, because I wasn't looking at the time, but on the way, I realized something was a little odd. I'd told more than 10 stories. First was B, then A, then me. So that meant we'd already told 30 stories by that point. Supposing each story took about 3 minutes, that meant we'd been driving for around 90 minutes already. We should have reached the highway by now, but we were still on the mountain and there were no signs we were about to get off. Does time feel longer in situations like this? I thought. But at the same time, I convinced myself that that was indeed the answer. Hey, it's your turn. So... A reminded me that it was my turn to go again, and the question that had been growing in my mind was interrupted, and I returned to the scary story fray. And that's what happened. A finished yet another story. I didn't know what number it was. As I thought about what story to tell next, again, that question from before crossed my mind. We'd told each other 10, no, 20 stories after that. Together we'd told over 30 stories. No, in reality it was probably less than that, but either way, we had told a lot of stories. Time-wise, an hour, no, 2 hours must have already passed. But still, we were on the mountain road. Are we lost? I thought. But still, it was taking us way too long. I had no idea where we were. It was a time before car navigation systems. Well, they did exist, but they weren't affordable for university students. Everything around us was pitch black. No, it was way too dark. Dark, like if black ink had been poured. Suddenly, I grew more and more worried. A's story just now was the 99th. Our senior, who had been mostly quiet up until that point, suddenly said, surprising me. Like I said, A's story just now was the 99th. Huh. We've told that many, huh? B said casually. I guess we know more ghost stories than we thought. A also answered normally. I was the only one who was confused. 99 stories. At 3 minutes apiece, that was almost 300 minutes, meaning around 5 hours had passed. We left at 1 a.m., which meant that it should now be close to 6 a.m. The sun should be rising. But even if that much time hadn't passed, either way, we should be on the highway already by now. And yet, the car continued on the mountain road, in the darkness, and I had no idea where we were. Fear started to creep over me. Have you ever heard of Hyaku Monogatari? As panic set in, our senior continued talking. Ah, you light 100 candles and with each story you blow one out, right? B said. That's what we've done, huh? Although we can't exactly have 100 candles in the car, A said. Yeah, and when the 100th candle is blown out, then a yokai or a ghost or something appears, our senior continued. If we blow out a candle, will that happen here too? B asked. Hang on. I was already panicking while the rest of them were talking casually about it. I wanted to scream, but it seemed I was either too scared or too nervous because I couldn't even speak. Yeah, maybe. But you know, at first, the 100 Hyaku Monogatari stories were told outside in the dark. Huh, I never knew that, B said. Yeah, at least that's apparently what they did around here. And when they were done with the 100th story, it wasn't a yokai that would appear, but rather a door to another world with those sorts of creatures would open and drag you in. That's what they say anyway. The way our senior spoke was oddly intonationless, or rather, without emotion. Huh, a door to another world. It's like a manga, B said. Yeah, and that Imperial University professor from the Meiji era, and those students from the Showa era, they heard about the legends passed down here. Everyone just hold the hell up. I finally found my voice. What? Are you scared? A said. That's not it. Senpai, where are we? It's pitch black. There's not a single streetlight. And when exactly are we going to reach the highway? I was so scared that I was almost crying. And as I screamed, I realized that the car hadn't once stopped. No, thinking about it even more, the car hadn't even turned once. Everything was pitch black around us and the headlights weren't even on. It was dark in front of us too. Why did I only notice this just now? I cursed at myself, but if I let our senior keep talking, it would be dangerous. How can I put it? I was driven by this instinctive, indescribable fear, and in that panic and fear, I continued through my tears. Think about it. Why is everything pitch black here? We told 99 scary stories, right? Just how much time do you think has passed? So why haven't we reached anywhere? We'll be there shortly. Just be quiet, our senior said, his voice still without intonation or emotion. It was him speaking, but it didn't sound like him. Just stop the car! Stop! I couldn't remain quiet any longer, and I couldn't let him keep talking. And so, I said that to him, almost screaming. Senpai, let's just stop the car for now, B said, slightly panicked, and it seemed he finally realized what was going on too. We'll be there once I'm done with my story, so be quiet and listen. Again, his voice was still emotionless. B, step on the brakes! The brakes! Panic had completely gripped me. Senpai, before you tell that story, please open the door. Then we'll listen, okay? A screamed, and it seemed he was now panicking as well. If you tell 100 stories on this mountain... The three of us were panicking, but he continued with his emotionless voice. Senpai, I'm sorry, B said, and then he punched him in the side of the face. The shrill sound of sudden braking screamed out, and the car stopped. I was wearing my seatbelt, but my head still hit the seat in front of me. "Oh, sorry guys. Are you okay?" our senior said. Looking around in the distance, I could see the lights of some houses, and on the road up ahead, I could see streetlights too. But most importantly of all, I could see the car's headlights were on. "We're back." I don't know why I thought that, but as the fear faded, I felt my entire body relax with relief. And as our senior got out of the car, he went around to the front to check something. "Sorry, I saw something white cut across us. And what's up with you guys?" he said to the three of us in the car, the atmosphere clearly not normal. At the very least, it seemed he was back to normal, and not acting like he was before. The three of us got out of the car to get some air, and after we calmed down, we told our senior everything that had happened. "Are you guys taking me for a ride?" he said. According to him, after entering the mountain road, that point where he started telling us about the spiriting away legends, he felt a black haze and wondered if he was getting tired. Then he saw a white shadow, so he slammed on the brakes. He didn't remember anything else we spoke of. According to his story, it was true that somebody went missing during the Meiji era, and then during the 50s as well. And according to the local legends, if you played Hyakumonogatari outside at night until dawn, when the sun rose, you could go to another world. That was how the legends went. And according to local historians, during the Warring States period, the Edo period, etc., life was harsh and there were often famines. The land was barren and poor. As such, it was said that the legend was likely born because people wanted to leave this cruel life behind and go somewhere else entirely. Another world. It was also thought the professor from the Meiji era and the university students from the 50s performed the Hyakumonogatari game. And yeah, when I first heard that, I thought that I'd like to try it too. Our senior's face then lost all colour. Looking at the time, it was after 1:30 a.m. We weren't right at the entrance to the mountain road, but we could see it just down below. And next to the car, there was a small stone shrine. We all quietly prayed to it and then got back in the car. We'd just experienced something strange, but I was relieved that we were okay now. I no longer felt scared. "Sorry, but my left cheek kinda hurts. Once we reach the highway, can someone take over for me?" Yeah, I'll drive," B said. After that, we safely arrived back in Tokyo. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember the 30 or so scary stories I'd told. I could remember the first few, but nothing after that. What I could clearly remember was the strange experience and the pitch-black scenery. Just recently, our club got together for a reunion, and I ran into A, B, and our senior again. Of course, we ended up talking about our strange experience that night. Well, maybe it was highway hypnosis, or a mass delusion or something. We tried to force an explanation for what happened. Then, after hesitating for a moment, our senior said something to the three of us. "Actually, there's been a disappearance on that road again recently." Apparently, a group of local kids were seen driving up that road, and that was the last time anyone ever saw them. Sometimes, our instincts work overtime to warn us of impending danger, even when we can't see it. The students in this next story visit an injured friend, but while chatting, a terrible feeling washes over them. Are they really where they think they are? Find out in Wind. This happened 15 years ago. It was the summer holidays of our final year at junior high, and every day I hung out with my friends A and B. We no longer had club activities, but even with our exam period coming up, we were the types of guys who were like, whatever happens, happens. And we didn't study at all. That was why we had so much free time. There was a medium-sized shrine close to where we lived that had a sacred tree. It was cool even during summer, so we often went there. One day, we bought some drinks and then decided to head over there to cool off like we always did. As I went to crouch under the sacred tree, I noticed something hanging from one of the branches. It was a person. The three of us screamed and then ran from the shrine at once. We discussed whether we should go to the police, but we didn't want the hassle, so in the end, we pretended that we didn't see anything. But several days passed, and we still didn't see any news about a dead body being found. If a body was found in our small town, then it would definitely make the news. We couldn't understand it, but we had convinced ourselves that we must have just imagined it. And after that, we were too scared to go back to the shrine. 2 months passed after that, and we forgot all about what happened. Then, A injured his leg. He was playing soccer at the time and broke it. B and I went to visit him at the hospital, but when we got there, he suddenly said, "Let's go up to the roof." He wasn't in a private room, so we thought that maybe he didn't want to bother the other patients with our loud voices. We chatted for a while once we got there, but suddenly something felt off. I could sense something indescribable on the other side of the fence. Both B and I seemed to notice it and looked in the same direction. The very next moment, a wind kicked up. There hadn't been any wind at all up until that point. A bad feeling washed over me, like the wind would swallow me whole, and I ran for the door back downstairs. My friend did the same. We flung open the door and ran inside before the wind caught up to us. B huffed and puffed next to me, but A was nowhere to be seen. "Oh yeah, his leg is injured." 5 minutes passed, and then I went back to the roof again. But A wasn't there. "Oh, this is bad," I thought, and I went back down to his room. But there was an old man I didn't know in his bed. "Huh?" I thought, checking the names of the patients in the room. A's name wasn't there. Thinking I maybe had the wrong room, I checked the entire floor, but his name wasn't anywhere. But that wasn't all. It was like A himself didn't even exist. We went to A's house, and his mother was there, but she said she didn't have a son by that name. Yet his younger sister and brother were there. This made his younger brother the oldest brother now. We went to school, and he didn't have a desk either, nor were there any photos. The only people who remembered him were B and I. 15 years have passed since then, and it's still strange beyond belief. B and I spoke about how he must have been swallowed by that wind and taken to another world. But we were also almost sure that that wasn't actually the case. I'd like to think this isn't the case, but it wasn't that A went to another world, but rather we had come to another world instead. Why did we think that? Because when we visited that shrine, where we saw the body hanging from the sacred tree, the tree wasn't there. That spot was the shrine's parking lot instead. The tree was in a different area. Perhaps when we opened that door on the rooftop, that took us to another world. But then, what happened to us who originally came from another world? Did we switch bodies at that time? Did the body we saw hanging from the sacred tree that summer have anything to do with what happened to us? And what was that wind that blew on the rooftop to begin with? I still have numerous questions about what happened, but both B and I have gotten married since we came here, and we're now living happily in this world. It's always dangerous to mess around with spiritual games, but of course, that rarely stops anyone. The kids in this next story enjoy visiting the spirit world during lunchtimes at school, but soon it seems one of them might not come back. Find out why in Spirit World Game. When I was in the 4th grade of elementary school, ghost stories and such were all the rage. It all started when a girl, G, proclaimed that she was psychic, and she could tell which other people were psychic as well. Everyone would gather around her, and one by one, she'd grab their hand and draw a picture. Apparently, you can tell if someone is psychic from what she drew, and when she took my hand and drew a picture of a cross, I was kinda happy. One day, G said she found a game where you can visit the spirit world. At lunchtime, everyone would lie face down on their desks and go to the spirit world. I tried copying them as well, but I was never able to go, and I found it strange that others could. The spirit world game escalated day by day, and some people claimed they saw their grandfather there, while others said they saw a river. Some people even said that if you held a keychain of a sword in the real world, then it became real in the spirit world too. G, who found this game, became almost like a religious leader. About a month after the game first started, G didn't return from the spirit world. When lunch was about to finish, G still didn't open her eyes. We called out to her and shook her, but she showed no signs of getting up. In the end, even when the teacher returned, she still didn't wake up, so the teacher carried her to the nurse's office in a panic. G came back to school the next day acting normal again, but the spirit world game was banned because it was too dangerous. And then a week later, G's mother was found floating in a pond. It was ruled an accidental death, but boys often went fishing there for crayfish, so the pond was way too shallow for an adult to suddenly drown in. And after her mother died, G changed and got quieter. During lunchtimes, she just sat at her desk and didn't move. And if people spoke to her, she just nodded or shook her head. At first, people were concerned about her, but as time went on, more and more started to leave her by herself, and in the end, G was left alone in the classroom. In the 5th grade, our classes were changed around, and I ended up with only 5 people from my previous class. G and I were in the same class again, but as usual, she sat alone at her desk and didn't talk to anyone. For a while, things proceeded normally, but then, about a year after her mother's accident, G started talking to me again. "Why, Chan? Can I talk to you for a moment? I want to see my mother again." Huh? What on earth was she talking about? I thought. She seemed to guess what I was thinking from the look on my face. "I know she's not here anymore, but there's a way I can see her again, and I want you to help. I can't do it by myself," she said. "What do you mean?" "There's a way to summon her from the spirit world, but I need a group of people to do that, so I want you to gather them for me," G replied. I felt bad for her, so I replied, "Okay." Okay, we need 1 more girl and 3 more boys. I'll prepare the location and the other things we need, G said. Getting the required people together was actually pretty fun. Lots of people had only heard the stories of the spirit world, and so they thought it would be fun to actually go there. On Sunday morning, the 6 of us gathered at the entrance to Mount Nani Nani. This mountain wasn't very big, and the elderly often climbed it for exercise. Shortly after we started walking, G told us to turn, and we left the main path for a smaller animal trail. After following this trail for a while, we reached an open area. On the left mountain slope, there was a cave that was just big enough for a child to pass through. Here it is, G said, taking some flashlights out of her bag. The boys kept remarking how cool it was as they took the lights. G then took out some candles and pieces of paper, cut into the shape of a person, and then handed them to each of us. Write your name on these pieces of paper. They will protect you, so make sure you write it properly, she said. When we were done writing our names, we tried to go into the cave, but the boys kept arguing about who should go first, so we weren't able to go in. After watching them for a bit, G got annoyed. "Gimme that," she said, taking a light from one of the boys and then going inside. It was hard to tell from outside, but inside the cave wasn't as big as it looked, and the space was only about as large as 3 tatami mats. The boys who had been hesitant to enter the cave kept yelling and jumping around and talking about making it their secret hideout. We then sat in a circle. I sat to G's left. Next to me was the other girl, and then the 3 boys. Put the candle in front of you and hold the piece of paper in your left hand, G said. Then the person next to you puts their right hand on top of that. I put my hand on top of G's, holding the piece of paper. I'm going to summon my mother now, but you mustn't let go of each other's hands until I say it's okay. Everyone nodded. All right, let's begin. Everyone, close your eyes. I closed my eyes, and the only thing I could see was the candlelight dancing before me. G chanted something next to me, and I started to grow more worried. She must have done this for the next minute or 2. Then, a very cold hand gripped my right one. I was so surprised that I let go of G's hand. A wind blew through the cave, and all the candles went out. Plunged into darkness, we all panicked and ran outside screaming. What happened? What was that? We said, looking around in a panic. But there were only 5 of us there. We couldn't see G. Thinking she was perhaps still inside, we decided we should go back in, but nobody wanted to. In the end, the 3 boys decided to go together, but when they looked around, they couldn't find G anywhere. After mulling it over, the boys decided that G had to be playing a prank on us, and we all went home. The next day, our teacher told us during homeroom that G hadn't returned home. Immediately after, we told him what happened the day before. We were taken out of class and we took some of the teachers to the cave, but when we got there was no cave in sight either. We followed the trail, reached the open area, but no cave. Police and locals decided to search the area anyway because it was the last spot G was seen, but nobody was able to find her. Where on earth did G go? And if I didn't let go of her hand, would she have gone missing in the first place? Finally this week, a little delve into perhaps a familiar mythos for many. A mysterious man wishes to rent an apartment that doesn't exist, and eventually the management company gives in. But when they visit the building, it turns out that the apartment is actually there now. What's really going on in this space that doesn't exist, and yet does? Find out in Room 404. "I'd like to rent room 404, a strange man said. We often got strange requests, but both this guy's appearance and request was the weirdest of all. His face was dark, and he stood tall and lanky. His voice was also hoarse, as though he had to squeeze it out. And on top of that, he was wearing a black coat in this hot weather. As I have explained to you many times, this building doesn't have a room 404. The owner feels it's bad luck, like I also told you. See? I showed the man the layout of the building. There is no room between 403 and 405. I had explained this to him several times now. I know there's no room 404, but I still want to rent it. Was he stupid? Or was he involved with the Yakuza or something? This wasn't funny. We ran an honest business here. I've already explained it to you several times. There is no room, so we cannot rent it to you. I know that, but I'll pay. You just draw up the papers saying you'll rent room 404 to me, and that's it. The room doesn't need to exist. He was mad. Unmistakably mad. Running out of patience, I raised my voice. Look, if you don't quit this, I'm gonna call the police. If you're just messing around with us, then leave. Right now. The chief seemed to hear the fuss from his office, so he stepped outside to see what was going on. I was so angry that I told him everything. Hearing that, he said, Sir, could you tell me a little more about what it is that you're after? He then sat down in the chair I'd been using to talk to the customer. I'm sorry, but would you mind leaving us alone for a bit? He said to me. Whatever. Do what you want. This was out of my control. I'd never heard of anything as stupid as renting a room that didn't exist. I retreated to the office and listened to see how long the chief could put up with his nonsense. I'm terribly sorry about that just now. Seemed he was apologizing for me, and before long, they started whispering. 30 minutes or so must have passed, and I started to nod off as I wondered when they would stop talking. Then, the chief called out to me. Hey, we're done. We're going to rent room 404 to him. Was the chief stupid as well? Had the summer heat driven him mad? But, Chief, we don't have a room 404, so how? Like always, draw up the paperwork. We've reached an agreement on the room, so there's no problem. No, there was definitely a problem. What did the owner say? I checked with him just now. He said that if the man wants to pay, then let him pay. What a mess. But we'll need to report this. The room doesn't exist, so nobody needs to know. All you have to do is stay quiet. He then continued. We've sorted everything out, so make the contract. I have the money right here. The man in all black said in a gloomy voice. He then opened his bag and showed me the money inside. Yes, we'll get the paperwork done right away, so please wait a moment. Come on, hurry up. The chief seemed to be in a good mood, so I reluctantly went along with this stupid situation. I made the documents and the customer signed. Even his hand was pitch black. His handwriting was also strange, but he appeared to sign the papers as Nyaru Hotep. "Well then, if you'll excuse me," he said once the formalities were complete. "I must now prepare to move in." And with that, he left the office. "Chief, this is too weird, no matter how you look at it. What if we get dragged into some strange crime?" "It doesn't matter if it's strange or not. He's paying money, so that's all that matters. I don't get why he wants to rent a room that doesn't exist, but the world is full of all sorts." "But he said he was going to move in. What if he forces his way into another apartment?" "Then we'll get rid of him. The room he rented is 404. He can't go into any apartment other than that." A week later, a tenant was moving out, so I visited the building in question to check over the room and get the key back. Remembering what took place a week earlier, I decided to take the elevator to the 4th floor and check it out. And there, I found room 404. That guy must have forced himself into one of the apartments and then changed the plate out the front. That stupid chief. I told him something dangerous was going to happen. I rang the doorbell, and the man in all black appeared. "Ah, it's you from earlier. Is there something you're after?" "Hey, what do you think you're doing? Your contract says you're renting room 404. "And as you can see, I'm in room 404. Is something wrong?" "Look at this guy, playing dumb. Don't mess around with me. You'll be in trouble with the police if you do. Hurry up and get all of your stuff out of here." "I'm terribly sorry, but I'm not doing what you think I'm doing. Go and check properly for yourself." I counted the rooms on the 4th floor. On the blueprints, there were rooms 401 to 405. But because 404 didn't exist, there were only 4 rooms. There were 4 apartments and thus 4 doors. Simple math. But, for some reason, there was now a 5th door. And that is why I must kindly request that you leave now. The man closed the door in my face, but I still wasn't convinced. In desperation, I decided to check the other rooms. The resident of room 401. "Eh? You mean there was no room 404? Come to think of it, that's probably true. But if it's there now, then it must have always been there." The resident of room 402. "Room 404? Yeah, it wasn't always there, huh? But it looks like it was built at some point and someone moved in. That's a bit weird, huh? But it's not like they're bothering us, so..." The resident of 403. "My neighbor? He said hello when he was moving in. He seems pretty normal." The resident of 405. "Next door? He looks pretty cool in all that black. I wonder if he's an actor." That was what they all said. I visited the other floors and they all had 4 doors. If the 4th room alone had 5, then that had to mean that room 404 bubbled up out of somewhere. I decided to ask the janitor about it. "I thought there was a mistake when you told me someone was going to move into room 404. And when I went up there with him, the apartment really was there. It was a surprise, sure, but the world sure is a strange place, huh? And he had all the paperwork, plus the owner's approval, so there shouldn't be any problems, I would think." "You haven't noticed anything odd?" He does have a lot of visitors. A lot of them have strangely blank faces. I asked him what he does for a living before, and he said he runs a consultation office or something. Apparently, He helps people from his homeland with their problems. Why on earth weren't his neighbours or the janitor more freaked out? Seemed city folks really don't care about anything other than themselves, huh? I decided to go back to the 4th floor and I rang the doorbell again. It's you again. Don't you think you've quite bothered me enough? Could you let me in so I can have a look around? I'm afraid not. I paid good money to rent this apartment, and you have no right to barge in. He was right, but I couldn't stand it any longer. I tried to force my way past him and into the room, but it was like I walked into an invisible wall. What the hell? There was nothing there, but it felt like I'd walked into bulletproof glass. You may not enter this apartment unless you have a good reason to be here. I work for the management company, you know. That still gives you no right to enter without permission. Damn it, he was right again. As I was talking to him, I heard a voice coming from the elevator. Ah, here it is. Room 404, yeah? Ah, hello. I'm here to deliver your order. I've been waiting. This is the room. Please take it inside. Understood. The delivery man walked through the space that had rejected me without resistance and went inside. Hey, how come he can go in? He's here to deliver something, and therefore he must enter. Made sense. I tried to think of a reason for me to go in, but it was no good. Nothing came to mind. I had to give up for now, but I would definitely get in somehow and look around. There had to be some trick to it, and I would figure it out. I was unable to focus on work after that. I had to catch him off guard somehow, but not a single thing came to mind. Hey, you've been slacking off a bit much lately, don't you think? The chief said. Well, you see... I then told him everything. You shouldn't do that. You're violating a customer's privacy after all. But he's really living there, in room 404. That is strange, yeah, but he paid for it. What more can we do? Don't you think it's weird? Not really. Why? Because he already paid. This conversation was going nowhere. If you do anything to upset the customer, it will affect your upcoming evaluation. So don't get distracted by meaningless matters and keep working hard. Meaningless matters? Really? There was something wrong with the chief and the janitor and even the other residents. But a month later, I finally got an answer to my questions. Ah, it's you. The guy from room 404 told us the other day he's moving out. I need you to be there when he leaves. Finally, my time had come. It was perfect. It was unfortunate that it had to happen as he was leaving, but I would definitely uncover what was going on. Make sure you don't do anything rude. I rang the doorbell to room 404. Hey, let me in! As soon as the door opened, I stepped inside. All right. I was able to easily enter without resistance. It was almost a bit of a letdown. Can you finish this quickly, please? The man said something like that, but what was it to me? I was finally in the room, and I could have a good look around now. I searched desperately for anything odd or unusual, but after an hour of looking, I didn't find a single thing. It was a regular apartment. I was completely at a loss. I give up. I surrender. But I really, really want to know what's going on here. Please tell me. What might you be talking about? This apartment! How on earth did you create another apartment in this space? I haven't done anything. It was here because it's in the contract. And it will disappear once the contract ends. You are finished now, yes? I must leave, but what will you do? Look at this guy, still acting like he had no idea. Contract? What the hell? He could try to fool me, but there was definitely some secret tool at work here, and I would find it. Yeah, I'm done. Everything looks good. Will you leave with me? I absolutely did not want to walk side by side with this creep. Well then, I'll take my leave, he said, and then left the apartment. I continued searching after he left, but there really was nothing. Next thing I knew, it was getting dark outside. Seemed it was already evening. Guess I should leave for now. I went to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. The key didn't work either. A bad feeling washed over me. I tried to open the window, but it wouldn't budge either. Nor could I get onto the balcony. I glanced at the clock. 3 p.m. Yet it was getting darker and darker. I could hear footsteps outside. Seemed other residents were walking around on the 4th floor corridor. Hey! Let me out! I screamed, banging on the door. But they didn't notice me and walked right on by. Why was it so dim outside? It was only 3 p.m, yet it was so dark. But when I looked outside, the scenery was completely different. What had been a completely normal city was now a pitch-black space. I couldn't see anything. 6 months have passed since then. I still remember what he said. It will all disappear once the contract ends. Maybe the apartment didn't want to disappear. The contract would be up once I confirmed the state of the apartment after leaving it. Meaning, as long as I was still inside, the apartment could still exist. The apartment doesn't seem to want to let me die. There's always plenty of food in the fridge, and I don't know how, but there's water and electricity too. I want to get out of here. Am I going to be stuck in here forever? A huge thank you and shout out to this week's Kami tier members, Just Sawn and Emerald. It's thanks to your support, along with everyone else, that I'm able to keep doing this show, so thank you very much. Don't forget to check out Deikan, the Most Haunted Locations in Japan Volume 3, out on Amazon right now. And check out our merchandise store at kowabana.store. And if you'd like to chat about this week's stories, come and join us in the Kowabana Discord. You can find that link in the description or on kowabana.net. You can also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TaraADevlin for exclusive bonus stories and extras, or our YouTube channel at youtube.com/KowabanaJapan for all sorts of Japanese horror you won't find anywhere else. Thanks guys, stay safe, and I'll see you again next time for even more Kowabana, true Japanese scary stories from around the internet. Want even more scary stories? Head over to kowabana.net for new translations every week. You can also join our Patreon for exclusive stories you won't find anywhere else. Head over to kowabana.net now.